As you're probably aware, the latest surely they won't to crumble before the harsh reality of anti-abortion crusaders' avarice is surely they won't start arresting women for having miscarriages. But of course, we crossed that Rubicon last month, and we did it just down the road from my house in a small town called Tifton, Georgia. The woman was Selena Maria Chandler Scott. She was picked up by an ambulance on March 20th after somebody reported an unconscious, bleeding woman. Turned out she'd had a miscarriage, which isn't illegal per se, but because she disposed of the fetal remains in a dumpster, she was charged with concealing the death of another person and abandoning a dead body. Think about the trauma of that. This was a pregnancy she intended to bring to term, as far as we know. So at the same time that she's dealing with the psychological trauma of a lost pregnancy and the physical trauma of a miscarriage, they suddenly pile on top of that the incredible stress of being arrested for damn near murder. Now, ultimately, those charges were dropped when an autopsy revealed that she had a natural miscarriage. But no doubt, a ton of damage was already done. And what if the autopsy hadn't shown that? What if it had been inconclusive? What if it had shown she'd taken an abortion pill? What would have happened then? Like so many other aspects of American life at the moment, we're very close to a worst-case scenario with this shit. And just because this is the case I'm talking about, don't assume it's isolated. In 2023, the most recent year we have data for, 210 women were charged with some form of bullshit pregnancy crime that didn't exist before the Dobbs decision. That number has risen since then and will continue to rise. But you know what number is also rising? The number of abortions. That's right, despite all their draconian Margaret Atwood bullshit, America is still aborting more fetuses than ever before. That's according to, well, all available data, but most recently a study from Guttmacher Institute, a pro-abortion group that's been correlating data on how the landscape of abortion in America has changed since Roe was repealed. One interesting finding I had to dig into in the survey, one that's leading a lot of headlines about it, is the fact that the number of people crossing state lines for abortions has decreased. And anti-abortion zealots are using that to try to say that the state bans are working and that people are changing their minds rather than crossing state lines. And while I agree that some people who need abortions aren't getting them, when you dig into the particular number, it turns out that it's because many of the states people were fleeing to also banned abortion in the past couple of years. So like all of the people who had been traveling to Florida for abortions stopped doing that when Florida's 6-week ban kicked in. But it's not all bad news this week, because as bad as the abortion numbers are looking, the lesbian witchcraft numbers are looking better. Or at least they will be, according to anti-abortion zealot Seth Gruber. He has a silly little YouTube show where he spouts misogyny. The most recent nugget of which praised Pat Buchanan for saying that feminism, quote, encourages women to leave their husbands, kill their children, practice witchcraft, destroy capitalism, and become lesbians, end quote. Of course, if you know you're misogynist like I do, you'll know that was Pat Robertson, not Pat Buchanan. Get your antiquated homophobic dead Pat right, Seth. But hey, if this is all just a painful period we've got to get through to get to the part where lesbian witches destroy capitalism, I'm way more okay with it than I thought. And on that tiny wisp of hope, I'll wrap things up and hand you back over to Noah, Heath, and Eli.